If we're going to start this game talking about anything, it's got to be Josh Allen in the offense.
Who?
I mean, Josh Allen. Josh mother Allen.
Who? Josh Allen.
Welcome back to another edition of the house that Allen built. This is week 5 recap. The Bills played the Steelers, and it wasn't even close. 38-3. I'm Scott Kinmartin. With me, as always,
Greg Vollmer. Bills Mafia. I know Western New York's filled with a lot of go Bills and smiles as you're getting your coffee and going about your day to start this new week off. And what better way to start it with another victory in supreme fashion. We took the Steelers, an NFL franchise, took them behind the woodshed, beat them to a pulp, took their lunch money, said, go get more lunch money. And we called their mom and said, you got to bring lunch money a third time. And then we sent them back in. Sent them home without lunch.
and we pulled a Zach Wilson and slept with her, too.
Oh, my God, the MILF Hunter.
Shout out to Portland's own Occidental. This is a Hefeweizen. Oh, Victory Monday's coming out of the koozie. What do you... here you go. Some spillage. It's a good beer.
Cheers.
It was my first beer when I moved here in Portland, actually.
Cheers. You know, the only thing that tastes better than a cold beer, Scott, is a cold beer after we beat the shit out of somebody. Go Bills.
Actually, what tastes even better is Josh Allen's own hometown of Fireball. Let's do a shot.
All right.
All right.
The only thing better than a shot, Scott?
Scott.
The only thing better than a shot, Scott, is a shot after the Bills win.
Oh, yeah. 21% by volume. 42 proof.
It's victory week.
We almost had the same proof on our scoreboard.
Woo! All right.
Woo!
Cheers, brother.
Cheers.
To the Orchard Park.
The Orchard Park.
To
the Orchard Park.
To the Buffalo Bills of Orchard Park.
Yes.
In Buffalo, New York. Tastes like Christmas. Woo! All right.
So my prediction was 34-9, and I chose the under, which it hit again for the 4th or 5th time in a row.
You put money on the under?
I didn't actually bet on
You
this,
should have.
but last week
I know you
predicted
shouldn't
that.
bet on your team, but god dang, sometimes it's fun.
Well, I actually did place a bet, and I almost won it, but Quentin Morris just fell short. We'll talk about that. Your prediction
Was 38-13. I picked the over. I was wrong on that. And
but you were perfectly right on the score.
I was perfectly right on our score.
On our score.
And both of our scores were off, but if you did the
Not by
math,
much.
they were both off by 10 points,
That's not bad at all.
depending on how you calculated it.
And the spread was 14, and they made a big deal about how it was the biggest spread in Steelers history. We blew them out of the water by 35 points.
It's hard to make a coach like Bill Belichick do what he's done when we play him, and like he throws his phone or he throws a tablet or the only thing we didn't make Mike Tomlin do was throw something because he was pissed.
He kept his cool. I mean, he has those aviators
pissed.
on.
You know,
He's just like...
he reminds me of like Denzel Washington. Like,
Yes.
I feel like Denzel Washington should play him as Coach
if they did a
Tomlin,
movie,
man.
for sure. For sure.
I feel like Mike Tomlin would be like, this is chess, not checkers.
When you're the head coach of a franchise that hasn't lost in 17, 18 years, like as far as a losing season...
Tomlin's never had a losing season.
No, but by halftime, he had 400 total yards against him on defense. I mean, the Bills just lit him
I
up.
wish I could have been a fly on that wall in the visiting locker room.
The Bills' defense has now shut out their opponents in the second half for 4 out of 5 games and has only allowed 7 points in the second half in 5 games all year.
Whether you follow the NFL or not, let me just tell you, that's good.
That is very good.
Great.
And that's including having injuries with Knox out, McKenzie out, Crowder out, both of our starting safeties out.
Hoyer out.
We had guys step up, and they needed to.
Benford out.
We had Shakir in, so I was right in predicting that they would play him more, and he got the starting role. He got his first touchdown as well. That was awesome.
Let's give a clap to Shakir, the rookie, looking like a seasoned vet out there.
Seriously,
Looking like a
smooth
seasoned
as
vet.
silk, no doubt. He's just good, and you get the tattoo sleeve out there, and you see that Hodgins, who also played his first NFL game, stepped up. He's got the sleeve.
You think that meant something to that young man?
Oh, man.
He's been working his ass off behind the scenes. You think
Yeah.
that meant something to him catching that ball?
Preseason, lit it up for 2 years in a row now, and has battled back with injuries, but he finally got to play, and good for him. Shakir had a... He didn't burp.
Nice.
He didn't burp.
Nice.
I had to, dude.
It's all right.
But Shakir's got a great... Yeah? You smell the fireball? It's coming through. That was like a dragon fire.
It's like the House of Dragons, right?
Seriously.
Game of Thrones, motherfucker.
McKenzie was out. We know that. Shakir stepped up. He did great. And
Allen, real quick, just to interject. Allen said that he trusts Shakir, especially after the preseason. And now, I mean, we can see it, like, on the film why. Like, why wouldn't you trust him? Because he did have a drop, like you said, but, like, he just has that vibe around him that this is Mr. Dependable. If you've got a 3rd and 10 that you need in the clutch, or you want to have him make a play where there's contested coverage, he just looks like a seasoned vet right out of the gate.
Would you say that he's a DAGG
dog?
Yeah!
Damn right. Hodgins is a dog! Who's that tight end that came in for Knox?
Oh, Quentin Morris.
Dog! Come on. This team's filled with so much dogs. Take him to the pound.
Good. I actually placed a bet on the Bills, like with the daily fantasy, right? I had Allen, did really well. Had Davis, did really well. I threw in Quentin Morris because I was low on the money. I was like, all right, he's only $10. He almost had a touchdown and he fumbled at the goal line.
I know.
But he looked sharp.
God,
he looked sharp.
He had one hell of a catch to keep a drive going where he had to high point it. Allen threw it a little high and he just went up and got it.
He looks like a very good tight end or a wide receiver, really.
The depth on this team is mind-blowing.
And that showed on both sides of the ball. I mean, on defense, you had Jaquan Johnson and DeMar Hamlin step up. You know, if we're going to talk about this game, we can't go without talking about Josh motherfucking Allen.
Dude's nuts are so big, I think it blotted out the sun in Orchard Park.
By halftime, he had 366 yards and 4 touchdowns. Twitter went ablaze talking about how he's going to hit 800 yards. I mean, he was going to set records for sure, but they let their foot off the gas a little bit. The second half, they pulled him in the third quarter or in the fourth quarter.
I mean, he could have thrown for definitely 550 to 600. If they would have kept him in and he was going all out and he wanted it, I think he could have potentially gone for almost 600 yards.
Props to Dorsey, though, right? 3rd and 10, you need to do something, and they chose to go deep. And both of their wideouts were double-teamed. Yeah. Allen takes a freaking lick. 3 guys come in after him. Right in the end zone, he throws a friggin' dime.
And what does that mean, Scott? In the NFL, when you probably have 75% of the 32 teams in this league, they would have maybe tried to run it on 3rd and 10. Maybe they would have tried to do a quick screen if you've got enough time. 75% of teams would have tried to just get enough room to punt it. They would have waved the white flag. And what did Dorsey do? He puts all his faith in his stud quarterback and says, make a play, and sends flyers out on double team.
Yep.
The difficulty of that play, first and foremost, should not go unnoticed. And then just the confidence that Dorsey has in his quarterback.
And you're throwing it to Gabe Davis, who we talked about last week was not right. And Allen, earlier in the week, had mentioned, actually, I think it was pregame, he said that Gabe looked the best he's looked since week 1. And that's when I knew
he could tell in walkthroughs. Yeah, he could tell in walkthroughs that he was healthy.
He was cutting good. Now look, Gabe Davis is not a speedster. He runs a 4.54 yard, 40-yard dash, right?
He's sneaky fast.
Or second, I said yard.
Sneaky fast.
He is. What he's good about doing is manipulating the defense and getting over top of them. Watch him do it at UCF. So clearly he's healthy again, and that made a huge difference, right? He had 3 receptions on 6 targets for like 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that playoff Gabe Davis against the Chiefs, which we're going to need this coming week, is back.
If Allen throws 300-plus yards and Diggs and Davis get 100-plus yards, it's going to be really tough to go toe-to-toe with this offense.
The Chiefs don't have Hill. They do have, some young guys that are really good, and they signed over some guys, but next week's going to be delicious.
Let's talk about Allen. So he ends with 424 yards, a new non-overtime Bills franchise record, the overtime record set by Drew Bledsoe.
463 yards. He had 424, and that was 3 quarters because he got pulled early. Case Keenum came in. Neither one of them were sacked. So far this year, Allen has thrown 199 passes, completed 133 of them. That's 67%. Remember how Josh Allen's inaccurate. 1,651 yards, 14 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Not bad. He's on pace to set not only franchise records, but NFL records with 47 touchdowns and 5,613 yards.
Yeah, unbelievable.
And that's against good teams. We're talking Rams, Titans, Dolphins, who they should have beat.
Oh well, there's
the Ravens.
There'll be plenty of haters out there that are going to figure out ways to the ones that don't like the Bills or have their own narrative. They're going to figure out ways to try to downplay it. Like, well, the Rams aren't looking like themselves this year anymore, and the Titans aren't looking. at the end of the day, yeah, both sides are getting paid. I mean, these are grown ass men and women out there on the coaching staff and playing that game that are making their living doing this. So I don't care if it is a Pop Warner team. If you win in this league, it's a win, and we are winning in big ways.
The fact that Allen is on pace to break Manning's record for most yards in a season. I remember when Dan Marino, who had an amazing arm, broke 5,000 yards, and people were like, wow.
Right? Back in the day when passing wasn't king.
And I know passing is king now, right? I mean, we still have a rushing game led by our quarterback, Josh Allen. He had 47 yards on 5 carries, and he tied with Singletary. All of our backs averaged at least 7 yards per carry. That is insane.
James Cook with his first touchdown as an NFL running back.
Yeah.
There we go.
You know, it's a great thing to see you persevere like that when you have a fumble on your first carry, then you've had a couple drops that were like gimme catches, and you had an open lane. They stuck with him, and it's good to see because he's got some speed. He is our guy on the outside. They actually threw him some pitches like I wanted on the outside, and bam.
You know what trusting the process looks like in real life with Big Baller Bean and McDermott? You got James Cook that scores his first touchdown as a rookie in the same game. You got Khair Elam that gets his first interception in the same game. And then you get Shakir that gets his first touchdown.
Yeah.
Receiving touchdown
and
in the same game.
I mean, with so many guys out, that shows you our depth, and it just makes you so excited. I mean, I honestly was just kind of giddy. By halftime, I'm just shaking my head like, Allen is dodging these blitzes and just torching them. And he made it look so easy. I mean, Davis and Diggs over 100 yards, right? If they do that every game on the year, Chiefs will not stand in their way. We'll find out this week how they do against them. But last year in the regular season, they beat them.
Make no mistake, this Chiefs game, we cannot take it lightly. Not that we took the Steelers team lightly. And I do think that this team lives by their cliches and that they don't just say it for the cliche sake. When they say 1 week at a time, they mean it. And make no mistake, this game against the Chiefs is going to be extremely tough. But you're right, man. Good luck. It's like it's in the voice of the Taken dude. Liam
Neeson.
It's like Liam Neeson and Taken. Good luck. It's just like if everyone is firing like that, you want to go toe to toe with them. Yep. Good luck.
Yeah, they don't have Matthew either. The Chiefs, so they've lost some key guys on offense like Tyreek Hill and whatnot. We'll get to that in our preview for Week 6. But Allen in the same sentence as Manning. Multiple times, because he also, with that 4th touchdown he had, passes Peyton Manning for 4th most offensive TDs, 151, in a player's first 5 seasons. And
it's pretty good.
We're early in the season.
Pretty good.
He was not sacked, as we mentioned. I mean, the fact that you can be touched once. We were criticizing the Bills' O-line for the run game. Who needs a run game when you can just torch people?
Well, now that's 2 games in a row, though, where they've had the whole line stay together in one game.
They've allowed 1 sack in 2 games.
Yeah. So as the trend there is, if your O-line stays healthy throughout an entire game, good things happen.
Yeah.
You don't have to shuffle, because that's the biggest thing. You got to shuffle around pieces during a game. It throws off your whole game plan and the practice going into that week. So the fact that they've stayed healthy together, continuity.
Players with 300 yards and 4 touchdowns in the first half are Rodgers, Mahomes, Roethlisberger, Favre, Chris Chandler, Dak Prescott, McNabb twice, Drew Brees 3 times, Manning twice, Tom Brady twice, and now
Allen once.
And it'll happen again.
And you know what that is? That's good company.
For sure. Very good company. When you're talking a bunch of Hall of Famers and future Hall of Famers, it's unreal. So it's good to see Gabe Davis healthy again. It's good to see our offense doing well with and without their key core starters. Stephon Diggs still 102 yards and a touchdown. He had 11 targets, 8 receptions. He now is 4th in the league with 508 yards. I think he's off by 39 yards behind Justin Jefferson for first. So top 5 in pretty much every major category across the board, offense and defense.
Still one of the most even trades in NFL history, him and Jefferson.
Yep. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like, damn.
So when Khalil Shakir scored, he was so excited. He always thought, when I score my first touchdown, I'm going to save the ball. But he gave it right back to the ref, and Josh Allen runs over and grabs the ball runs over to Shakir and gives it to him. He's like, "What are you doing?" And
Allen helped his boy out. He said, "Wait a second, you want this for your trophy case?"
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure James Cook the same thing.
Maybe that can be. You know what? Shakir seems like a classy dude. Maybe that can be his celebration going forward. Though he does the whole just hand the ball to the ref after a score.
Yeah.
Like who's the running back that did that?
He
would score and he just go and hand it to the ref.
I don't remember who that was.
I don't know if it was Barry Sanders. It was someone. I feel like there was this running back.
If you know in the comments, let us know.
Yeah, he would score and his signature was just he didn't celebrate. He didn't do any puff in his chest.
Frank Gore.
He just went to the ref and handed him the ball.
Yeah,
like all
that
business.
alone it shows some swag and some.
Yeah, it's all business,
some
right?
Good demeanor. But Shakir, he does have a great head on his shoulders. He did a post game interview and he talked about how Allen brought him the ball, and he comes from military background. He's disciplined. He's smooth. He reminds me a lot of Robert Woods. I feel like he's going to be scrappy. He's going to be clutch. He had one drop, but really, he reminds me a lot of Davis, too, with the sure hands. I mean, you throw the ball in his way, it doesn't matter if he's covered, he's open.
And Allen said that from training camp on, he had trust in this dude. And it just goes to show, like, you can see why now that he's starting to actually put in live reps in the games when it matters.
He likely will have more time moving forward, regardless of when McKenzie is healthy. I think McKenzie is a good slot receiver. I think this kind of guy, Shakir, can play anywhere on the field. He's a lot like Davis, where he'll know every single route to run and every single wide receiver position.
Swiss Army knife.
Yep. Sean McDermott becomes the winningest coach in franchise history. Winning percentage.
Way to go, Coach McDermott. Way to go.
He passes the one Marv Levy, and that's no small feat. So, after 5 weeks, you've got the Bills' offense, second in points, first in total yards, 448 yards per game.
Scouting our opponent.
First in passing yards, 332 yards a game. You've got 14th in rushing, which we know is led by Josh Allen. We haven't really had much of a run game. But even with the run game weak, it's just good enough to open up that passing game even more. Keep Josh Allen safe.
You know, Scott, every week that goes by, I feel like in one form or another, on one platform or another, there's going to be the topic. Because, people have to talk about something to make a living.
Yeah.
The running game is going to continue to get brought up. I think I'm done talking about it. Like, as long as we're winning games like we're winning.
Yeah, Dorsey's doing a good job.
And as long as Allen protects himself when he can, then just let it be a mute point. I get it. Like, we want our running backs to be involved, but I feel like we're trying to pick something to, like, criticize. And it's like, where's the run game? Is our offensive line, do they know how to block for running? And are they only good at pass blocking? Look, as long as we're blowing the doors off of people and we're winning and we're trying to get that number one seed, I just think we're overblowing that whole conversation.
Very true. And I think when your point differential is 91, plus 91, and it leads the league by a mile. I mean, the next up is Tampa Bay and Philly, and they're plus 47.
Mm-hmm.
When you can afford that many points ahead, you don't need to run the ball until you're up by that much and you're just wearing out the clock. Like they did against the Ravens. They milked the clock and they won the game. Those are when your run game is more crucial. If you can throw 98-yard bombs or flat-footed 65-yard dimes.
Yeah, it's like I've thought about it this week because everyone's been talking about the run game. It's been this talking point for the last 4 weeks. And it's like, if you're resting your star quarterback before the fourth quarter starts because because you're in such a huge lead, man, maybe it doesn't need to be a talking point.
That might be the only thing that stalls Josh Allen as MVP. Is if they have to pull him every game in the fourth quarter because they're blowing teams out. He had more yards in the first half than any team in the league had in an entire game. I think Carson Wentz was the closest, and that was in an entire game.
It was like the Josh Allen gif where he's like,
"Oh yeah."
It's like that was the first half for him.
And so we've spent this entire time basically talking about the offense, but the defense is still first in points against at 12.2 points per game.
Yep.
Second in total yards against, 260.4 yards per game is all they're allowing. They're fourth in passing yards allowed, which is unreal because third in rushing. So fourth in passing, third in rushing, first in points against, fifth in sacks, and first in interceptions, which they're tied with Pittsburgh.
All of this with being more beat up than a on the San Francisco streets in the 80s and not having Trey White, our all-pro potential future Hall of Fame lockdown.
That's
corner.
right. We're going to get him back. Now, once he's activated, he has 21 days to actually play, or he has to go, or we lose him for the season. You're still impressed with your own. I see a little smirk on your face.
It's not going to be able to get put on. But that's
man.
okay. All right. Okay. That would have gotten me fired if I was an actual broadcaster.
Yeah, probably. But
right,
you know what? We're going to keep it in then. If there's any silver lining for Steelers fans, Kenny Pickett. For a first-year quarterback drafted in the first round, the only quarterback to be taken in the first 2 rounds, goes in to Buffalo, New York against the number 1 offense and number 1 defense, keeps his composure, stays in the pocket, throws really good balls, especially on the outs, ends up with over 300 yards in his first start.
Yeah.
You know what? You got a lot going for you, Steelers.
Yeah.
It's a rebuild year. Maybe not with George Pickens and Deontay Johnson and all these other guys and Najee Harris, who against our stout defense didn't do much. But
as much as I said last week that Tomlin knew he was going into a hornet's nest, and he also knew that he had to make a change for many reasons. To allude to what you just said, I've got to give Kenny Pickett and that offense kudos. He was put in a tough situation to try to keep pace with quite frankly, the MVP frontrunner right now, and he had some beautiful throws. In fact, the only rookie mistake I saw him make that was blatant was when he threw across his body. He rolled out to the right, and then he panicked, and instead of throwing out of bounds and just taking one, living to see the next down, he threw across his body, and I swear if Jordan Poyer was on that field, he would have been somehow there to make the pick. Yeah. Instead, it went off of Dane Jackson because Dane Jackson ran into, it was either Hamlin or another guy, and so they collided and the ball hit the ground.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But that would have been an interception, I feel like. But that was only the only blatant rookie mistake he made. Other than that, he was a dude that was in enemy territory, trying to deal with the noise of Bills Mafia strong, and he threw some darts. Him and George Pickens, they have a future together.
They do.
You could see the chemistry throughout that game. Pickett to Pickens.
Yeah.
It has a ring to it. So, yeah, you saw the chemistry build there. They still have Deontay Johnson, who made an absolute insane one-handed catch on the sideline that could have almost got them in the first down.
2 toe taps, and they were 1 foot in and 1 foot out.
One hit the chalk. It was right there, and he had another crazy catch.
This team reminds me a lot of the 2017 Bills, where they've got a rebuild team.
And it is a rebuild. Everyone at Pittsburgh has been not wanting to say the R word, and neither is Tomlin, and that's fine. Put your pride aside. You're in a rebuild.
Yeah.
Anytime you got to start your rookie quarterback, week 5 in the season.
Yep. They were hoping to have a veteran like Trubisky come in and not miss a beat, but they're going to struggle.
You're on a rebuild.
I'll tell you what, though.
That's fine.
If we're going to get into fantasy talk, Pickett might be a good pickup for a backup, because by week 10, he might be doing just as good as anyone but the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. So we've spent this entire time talking about the Bills offense, basically. So let's get into the Bills defense. They shined once again. We're talking the entire defense, the defensive line, the linebackers, without Tremaine Edmonds, who we haven't mentioned yet.
We haven't.
So Dotson stepped up and played for him. Our secondary with Jaquan Johnson and Damar Hamlin.
Without Poyer.
So
we were without our pretty much captain of the safeties in Poyer, and we were without our captain of the middle linebacking in Tremaine Edmonds.
And we were still able to hold them to 3 points, which was in the first quarter, and then shut them out, as we mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's just this team, and Matt Milano is just everywhere. And Von Miller, he did have a sack. Rousseau was off the stat sheet, but this defensive line is just pushing. The secondary is locked in. They didn't have any big plays, no touchdowns. I mean, what else can you ask for?
Von Miller and Gregory Rousseau, you knew that the edge is where we needed improvement on, and look they're both at 4 sacks.
Yep.
Now going into week 6,
team.
And even though Rousseau didn't get on the stat sheet this week, he was still involved, and Von Miller, he got another tick on the old sack count this week. But yeah, I mean, talk about a defense that's overperforming given how injured we are. It goes to show just how good our coaching is right now, and the players are clearly buying in.
Yes, and Levi Wallace, who actually played for the Bills, was the best player for the Steelers until he got hurt. He had the lone pick for them. He picked off Josh Allen, which I'm sure he's done more than once in practice. They couldn't deal with Allen otherwise. And once Wallace was out, Allen was on fire. We didn't have much to say about the defense, but let's get into the special teams. Sam Martin only had to punt twice. And you know what's crazy? You're up 38-3, and Bills Mafia starts booing because we brought out our punter, who had punted 7 times all year.
Easy, Bills Mafia. Just
They're like, boo.
pinch yourself now. Remember how bad it was 10 years ago.
I know. 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, Case Keenum was not leading the offense down the field. And
That's why Allen needs to stay healthy.
I know.
Yeah.
So Sam Martin comes out and booms 2 punts that could have been touched at the 1 yard line.
Both great.
Saran Neal almost got him. 55 yards a punt.
Once again, Brandon Beane did his research, and I know Vaughn even had a say in it because he played with Martin with the Broncos.
Yes.
But once again, we were in a pinch when we lost a person. I dare say his name. I'm not going to say his name. And then we go and get him, and that's just another great move by Big Baller Beane.
The special teams has not allowed a single yard in punt return yards.
Is that
Can you
good?
believe that? That is unreal. I mean, 9 total punts, so there's not a big measure there. But the fact that you haven't allowed any returns, unbelievable. Offense, defense, special teams, our roster moves, who we have to elevate, put on IR. No, it doesn't matter. I mean, Bass, he was only 1 of 2 for field goals because one of them was blocked. I mean, it wasn't like it was his fault.
Yeah, was it blocked or did he just?
It was blocked.
It was, and okay.
Just like the last one. I wasn't sure.
And
it was tipped.
it was very low, and I don't know if the wind had a play in that. But the trajectory off his foot, I noticed it was on the replay. It came off his foot really low, and I'm sure he'd want that one back, just like a quarterback that throws an errant pass would want his pass back.
Yeah, but there's really nothing else we can say. Offense, defense, special teams, all 3 phases did amazing.
Would you say Matt Milano is the MVP of our defense so far this year? I know, and this is a tough conversation because we've had so many injuries and people having to step
Miller
up, and Edmonds, but I feel like Milano, like you said, and like the announcers have talked about when they're
13
calling
tackles
the
last
game,
week.
he is all over the place. He
Everywhere.
is
He's where the ball. They say out of all the linebackers in the league, he's not one that comes first in mind. But when it comes to where the ball is, he's always where the ball is. And he's just proven to be yet another smart draft pick and another smart re-sign.
I don't think, M. Night Shyamalan's movie, The Sixth Sense, that wasn't about ghosts and seeing dead people. That was about Matt Milano.
I see Matt Milano.
That was Matt Milano with that Sixth Sense. You want to talk about Sixth Sense?
We're leading into the matchup of last year's playoff, which they are now marketing as the greatest playoff game ever played.
It's America's Game of the Week, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's not on prime. I call prime time anything under the lights. A late afternoon game, in my opinion, is not prime time, but they're slotting it as the game of the week.
It is because it's going to be national, and you know what? The Bills are America's team. Forget the Cowboys and Cooper Rush.
You see this red, white, and blue right here? That's America.
Now that we've covered the Buffalo Bills, we might as well get into the other matchups. Cooper Rush, 4-0.
Not too bad.
For the Cowboys.
Not too bad.
Dak Prescott goes out. You expect to bring in your backup, and he wins a couple games. 500, right? So he'd be 2-2. No, he's 4-0. Now, he's not lighting the stat sheet up, but he's winning. That defense. That matters. You talked about how the defense for the Cowboys is really
Their
good.
defensive line is wreaking havoc on every single offensive line they see each week.
For sure.
And they're now on a collision course for what's going to be a primetime game, the Eagles-Cowboys next week.
Yep.
That's going to be a good
one. Yeah, it's going to be a divisional game. That's big. Speaking of that division,
oh boy,
the New York Football Giants.
Oh my God, Brian Dable.
4-1.
Attaboy, Dable. Attaboy.
Seriously. I mean,
gotta give him credit. Just last week you asked me, are the Giants for real? And I said they're not for real. I said, teams like the Bills and the Chiefs and the maybe the Chargers.
Yeah.
And God, who else?
Well, honestly, there aren't that many right now that are up there because
the Bucks and I even said the Packers. I said the Packers, and guess who they beat? The Packers.
They did, and it was in London, and it was not a good game. I mean, it was fun to watch, but the thing is, I'm a big A-Rod fan, right? I love Aaron Rodgers, but he's all smiles when they're winning, and he has the worst body language when he's losing. He's just shaking his head when the defense is, he's had terrible defenses his whole career, basically. And the couple years they went to the Super Bowl or made it deep into the playoffs, they had a strong defense. They have a good defense, but
and I think he was mad at himself too. He was mad at himself because he did miss a couple throws that could have been touchdowns in that game, and so his body language is not great, but he was definitely pissed at himself because he knew that one got away from him. I don't know. I follow football enough to know that the Packers are the better team, roster to roster, compared to the Giants.
Yeah.
But we all know that doesn't mean sometimes in the NFL.
It's because Brian Daboll knows how to bring the best out in what he has.
Yeah, no, he's coaching. He's
Josh
coaching
Allen,
out of his mind.
He catered the offense to Josh Allen. Now that he's got Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones, he made Daniel Jones look good, beyond serviceable. And Saquon Barkley has resurrected his career.
Give Daniel Jones kudos. He had a great game. He had a great game on Sunday. He didn't make mistakes when it mattered. And, I still am not going to put them in a legit, like, elite category. I'm not. I'm just not going to. They I don't know. Maybe if they're 7-1 and we're in 3 weeks from now, I'll maybe have to reconvene. I'm still not putting the Giants in elite because watching that game, and I watched almost all of it.
They play the Ravens
I think
next.
the Packers are still the better team, but we'll see. But so far, absolutely great coaching by Daboll, and you got a guy in Daniel Jones. You got a guy in Daniel Jones who's clearly playing for his career. He wants a contract and he wants to prove people wrong, and he did play well enough to win. I'm not going to put them in that elite category yet.
So they're playing the Ravens, and the Ravens just had a tough game against the AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow.
And that was another game that came down to clock management. There was a lot of like strategy and chess playing.
I thought Harbaugh was going to lose another close one, but you know what? Justin frickin' Tucker, holy cow. That guy, I think it was Next Gen Stats said that if the field goal was this wide, he still would have made it. A half a yard was the margin of error for him to split the upright literally symmetrically down the middle.
Did you know he can sing opera in like 5 different languages?
Yeah, and they mentioned that. Oh, he can.
I don't know what his ASVAB was or whatever, or his ASVAB, his ASVAB test
or
Wonderlic test. But the dude's smart.
I think it's 5 to 7 languages.
He knows how to kick a ball.
Yes, he's classically trained, is what they say.
Damn right, classically trained and kicking the pigskin.
Unbelievable. He's one of the best athletes in the league when it comes around to just like. Probably the greatest kicker of all time in the NFL. Ever. Accuracy, he's number one by far.
In my book, and I love field goal kickers, and I've always liked it because I used to play soccer, and it was if there was like, instead of running, if there was something I would have wanted to try to pursue, it would have been being a place kicker.
I could have seen you be that like superstitious place kicker,
It's something I've always followed them, and you want to know how to gauge if a kicker is elite or not? When they missed, you're shocked.
Yeah.
When you missed, because they missed so few times. And Justin Tucker's one of those kickers where it takes like crazy wind in Buffalo for him to miss.
Yep.
Or some crazy...
A bad hole.
Other than that, he is about as automatic as a kicker in the NFL gets.
Not to get sidetracked, but I just pictured you as a place kicker. And it would be like... He would be Tyler Bass with one, right? He would be Rodrigo Blankenship with the goggles.
Some sports glasses.
Because he's wearing contacts. And then, if you haven't noticed, he got rid of that mustache.
Yeah, you're damn right I did.
Look at the baby face over there. Who is this guy? Who is this guy?
It's a new start. I gotta put my business face on now.
Yep.
I put the Harley in the garage for a little bit. Now it's time to put on the business suit.
Dang, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So, with Houston winning, there are no longer winless teams in the NFL, period. We have only one team that's undefeated, and that's Philly, who squeaked by, and they are now 5-0.
They are a team to be contended with. I can't wait for that Cowboys-Eagles game, because how will the Eagles handle that tenacious D-line of the Cowboys? Will Hurts continue his MVP-type rate, and will Cooper Rush continue to stay undefeated? There's a lot of storylines going into that one.
And will he lose the starting job when Dak's back?
Man.
I mean, most likely that's the case, but there are NFL pundits that are saying that he needs to start, that Rush needs to play maybe until they lose or until Dak is actually 100% healthy and not rush him back in. Russell Wilson, he apparently has a torn muscle in his shoulder, which is the same injury that Dak Prescott had last year, and he was out 4 to 6 weeks. But stubborn Wilson says that he's going to come back and play. He's going to rehab. I was
giving him so much this week. Now I feel kind of bad.
I feel bad too, but last year when he hurt his finger,
it doesn't change his personality though. I think
Kyle Brandt. Did you see that?
Yes,
Holy cow!
Yes.
Kyle nailed it.
I feel like Kyle Brandt said what so many people that have not hated on him, because I've always liked Russell Wilson as a player, but there's always been something about his personality.
Fake.
It's just very much like he's trying to be this higher presence of a human being. And I got into an argument with some friends this week that were trying to defend him, and I was kind of playing the side of I don't think his personality is necessarily genuine. Yeah. And I just feel like at times he puts on this good boy persona, and I equated it to this metaphor. when you wake up, you want to try to be the best human you can be, and that's impossible. We're all humans, right? But you try to be a good person, but you don't need to broadcast being a good person. Like he didn't need
just
to
be it.
He didn't need to broadcast that he wasn't having sex with Sierra before they got married because he's this perfect Christian. That just do it. You don't have to do it for clout on the interwebs.
Well,
Like,
did you see him at
if
midfield in the warm up? He was doing.
If you
this
want to
whole,
help
like,
someone in need, whether it be give them money or help them move something or whatever, then just do it. You don't need to broadcast that you did it, because then you've got one person that's just being a good person. You got one person that's saying, "Look at me, I'm being a good person." I don't know. I've always respected his grind and his work ethic, and he's a potential future Hall of Fame quarterback who should have had 2 Super Bowls. But I just feel like his persona, he is a little fake, man. And I don't know. I gave him a lot of shit. I did not realize. Now everyone's like, well, we didn't realize his shoulder was all messed up. But
he's a trooper. He wants to play through it, but you don't want to do that at the sacrifice of your team.
Yeah, I mean,
you've got Melvin Gordon looking at you, side eyeing you, like you want your team to be rooting.
Well,
I
wonder
you.
how his team takes that now if they didn't know that his shoulder was all messed up. Which that plays into like, did they violate some rules by not putting him on the injury
Apparently,
report?
he was on the final injury report with a shoulder injury.
They were just
but he was questionable, and then they obviously let him play because he said, "Oh, I'm going to play." Because when it comes to pain, these doctors have to go off of your threshold, and when you're like, "Yeah, I'm going to play." I mean, he came back quickly from that finger injury and played, and he probably wasn't ready yet because he didn't finish his season.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in that locker room, and it wasn't a good week for Russell Wilson. But if he practices what he preaches, he said that he's just going to use this as fuel, and that he embraces challenges. And I don't question him as a player. I do question him as a person. And maybe what Kyle Brandt said was wrong. Maybe we're all dead wrong on him. But when Kyle Brandt said that, I'm like, here's a dude that I feel like has said what's been on a lot of people's minds, and they just didn't have the
some people thought he had something against him because he met him in person, and he was kind of like,
which doesn't surprise me. Like with what I've kind of seen in his interviews
Sierra,
and stuff, it's like he says something like that, and I'm like, well, that just kind of reaffirms that he just is kind of putting on this front of what he thinks people want him to be. Yeah. Who do you want to be? But I feel like he's acting like what he wants other people to think he needs to be.
And maybe that was acceptable in Seattle, where Pete Carroll kind of just brushes it under the rug and protects him, and everyone just kind of like grins and bears it. But in Denver, where you've got a new team that got rid of Drew Lock, who's young and not even playing because Geno Smith is going nuts.
I mean, at the surface level, it's at least made for an entertaining storyline between Seahawks fans that are now following Geno Smith, and they're like, good riddance to you, don't let the door hit you on the way back. Right? And now, it's like this conversation now where it's like, who's Geno Smith statistically is playing way better. It's like, how much was it Wilson just being a prima donna, or was there everyone was saying that there was these butting with him and Carroll. So it's just, if anything, on the surface, it's made for some interesting talking points. Only time will tell to see if he can practice what he preached and wrangle in that locker room and be a leader and try to get them back to playing good football, because right now they are not.
I know.
Shoulder aside.
Sticking with the quarterback theme, Tua, we have no updates on him, whether he's going to be playing or not. Bridgewater goes out early, and they bring in this young guy.
So now you have 2 quarterbacks that are concussed, because I think Bridgewater went out with a concussion.
Yep. And Skylar Thompson, 2022 7th-round pick from Kansas State, comes in. He looks like the long-lost brother of Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce.
I always knew who Skylar Thompson was. I bought his auto way back when.
I'm like, that's
who the Skylar Thompson.
I don't know, but
no idea.
He was 19 of 33, 166 yards and a pick, and they got their butts kicked 40-17 to the New York Jets. I don't know. I feel like there's so many dumpster fires in the league. Like, look at Carolina. They had to fire their head coach, their $62 million head coach.
Man, I wish I was in a profession where I got paid to get fired. Like, you're going to get fired, but here's $25+ million.
Guaranteed.
Enjoy. God. And then everyone, like, criticizes the dude because they got fired. But, like, who gets fired for millions? Like, what a profession.
O.J. Howard. We guaranteed him money and then cut him.
What a way to make a living, man.
But, I mean, look at Baker Mayfield. They brought him over for picks, just like Denver gave up a bunch of picks for Wilson. And now you're left with Baker, who looks terrible, throwing pick sixes and hurt.
You're not playing great at quarterback in the NFL when your fan base is just wanting you not to play. Like, he's injured now, and people are just like, just stay on the sideline.
This is a guy. He loves reading the comments, right? So when he goes through fantasy football, he'll go through. I bet you did
read
this.
all the
You
comments.
went to Yahoo Fantasy Baker Mayfield, and you read the comments, and they're all talking about trash. This and that,
DJ
whatever.
talking about because DJ Moore. I look at all the comments on DJ Moore,
who you cut because he's worthless with Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold.
It's not good. Whatever's going on in Carolina, it's not good.
As far as the other matchups go, I'm going to just quickly run through, and I want to get your opinion on what you think. The Raiders play Kansas City tonight. We're filming on a Monday.
I don't think there's any way in hell that Las Vegas goes into Arrowhead and beats them tonight. I've seen enough over the last 4 weeks to know that Kansas City is the true test to beat the Bills right now with how they're playing. You know, it might be competitive because it's an AFC West matchup, and a lot of times it's one of those like 23 to 26 rivals, or 27 to 30 games. But I don't know. I don't see Kansas City losing at home.
No, I mean, and I like the Raiders. I like Carr and his college teammate, Devontae Adams. But I feel like, even though it's a division rival, and I said at the beginning of the year, the AFC West is just going to beat the hell out of each other. KC is too good.
Everyone, like so many experts, thought that the AFC West was going to be the hardest division in football, and now you've got pretty much the Chiefs are the only one that looks like they're an actual contender.
Yeah, as of right now, for sure. And we'll find out after tonight, but you had the Colts squeak by Denver in a snooze fest. It's literally 7 field goals, no touchdowns.
The game that played on Amazon Prime that forced people to wonder if they should even have Amazon Prime, or if you're going to have it, you might as well have it for free.
Robert Griffin III said that they should get a free month of Amazon Prime.
Truth be told, I fell asleep on my couch. I tried to keep my eyes open, and then the only reason I woke back up is because I had 2 fantasy players going, but the product on that field was enough to make I passed out.
It was not fun
and I did not drink. I just passed out.
So we mentioned the Giants beating the Packers. Football. We mentioned New England blanked the Lions.
Yes, they did.
Holy cow.
Yes, they did.
You had benched Amon-Ra St. Brown knowing that.
Once I knew he wasn't 100%, I benched him. That was an easy fantasy bench. Look, fantasy is just as much as it is luck and skill, it's also about instinct. And my instinct said if he's not 100%, they're probably going to use him as a decoy. The Lions couldn't convert on 4th downs. They went for it, I don't know, a handful of times and couldn't get it. 4th and 1, 4th and 2.
Booing Dan?
Well, there's a lot of criticism on Dan Campbell now because of how many times he went for it on 4th down. The game was close. It was like an 11-point game almost going into halftime. Like, the game was not... The score makes it look like the Lions
point swing happens when there's a turnover.
But watching the replay and watching some of the plays, like, it was a closer game than the final score shows. But the Patriots played great defense. They were opportunistic. And the Lions couldn't convert 4th downs. That just killed drives. They couldn't keep drives going. They made mistakes. And that, like I've said before, easiest way to win in the NFL is to turn the ball over less than your opponent. Easiest way to lose is to turn the ball over more.
Yeah.
The Zippy some passes around the field. He came in and he looked. I don't know. He looked just as good as McCorkle Jones. I don't know. I mean, like, and that's not maybe setting a huge bar, but like he was throwing some good passes and looked composed at times. So I don't know. This is one of those games where I think Patriots fans and y'all need some kind of sliver of hope to hang on to, so you don't cry too much in your clam chowder. This is one of those games where I think they're going to overreact to because they're like, oh my God, finally, this is like Zappy looks good, and this is what we need. We blanked the Lions team. That's a gritty team. I'm going to take it at surface value. It was a game going into the half. Goff could not convert a 4th down to save his life. They were definitely missing Amon-Ra being 100% healthy. I'm not making excuses.
Swift was out.
Swift was also out. It sounds like I'm making excuses. I'm not. I'm just saying it looks great on paper for Patriots fans. Yeah. For Lions fans, while you're going to want to start the fire Dan Campbell chants, pump your brakes.
Yeah.
He's a good coach. Tail is in the tape. If you watch the game over, look, it wasn't as bad as the final score indicates, but give it to the Patriots defense because they came to play.
Yeah. All right, so we've got Minnesota that squeaked by Chicago. They did have the lead the entire time, but then Chicago came back, and then they sealed the game. Jefferson had a good game.
Had a great game again for fantasy.
And then you had New Orleans with Taysom Hill, who came and upset Seattle, if we can call that an upset.
No, I mean, the thing I look at this is more like the Seahawks. Like they're hanging in games, they're being competitive with Geno Smith. I felt like the Seahawks were going to be the dumpster fire of the NFL this year, and they're hanging in there. They're playing competitively. They're being respectable. I mean, same with the Saints are dealing with injuries too. So this was kind of like it's like who wants to lose at worst type of a game. But I just feel like that the bigger story to me is the Seahawks are like. They're definitely doing things I didn't see them doing.
Yeah.
Especially with losing Russell Wilson. I was on that bandwagon of like, well, they lost Russell Wilson. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. They're not going to be competitive at all.
Yeah. I want to get into the game where there was a soft call on Tom Brady. It cost the Atlanta Falcons the game. It was $15 because Atlanta had a sack on Tom Brady, and they like spun him around, but it was all momentum, and it was not roughing the passer. They called it, and that cost the game. So
even though Brady goes down as one of the quarterbacks that gets the most calls, I feel like goes away, he can be kind of perceived as whiny. I have noted even the game against it was Allen. Allen got a call when we beat the Ravens. That was quite frankly should have been a no call, and they called it roughing the passer, and it wasn't.
They want to preserve their stars,
and they do, right? But I'm trying to be non-biased there. Yeah. Like even though I trust me, Brady does get calls that are just insane. To me though, the story of this game is just the win wasn't impressive with the Bucs, and I know they're dealing with a lot of injuries, and Brady's dealing with a lot of drama off the field.
They're 3-2, and they shouldn't be.
And they lost to a very average Falcons team that should have, like you said, won without that call. So to me, this is all about not what the Falcons did. It's all about what the Buccaneers didn't do. Like this is a game you should win by more than 6 points.
And then Jacksonville, who's had a great start, ended up losing to Houston, who was winless prior to that. So now there are no more winless teams.
Dameon Pierce, he's a stud.
He is doing very well. You knew it. You drafted him. You knew it.
Burkhead, at first, everyone was freaking out, and I was too, because Burkhead comes in as the starter, and he's getting passing downs. Yeah, but I'm just like, well, I want to see Dameon Pierce, and now we're starting to see Dameon Pierce.
Yep. We covered the Baltimore game. We covered the Dallas game. Philly ended up squeaking by Arizona. That was just kind of a meh game. I mean, it was close. It was a field goal game, 20-17.
Philadelphia couldn't contain Kyler Murray in the second half.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about how good the Bills have been making halftime adjustments. The Eagles did not make halftime adjustments against Murray. In the first half, they were containing him and frustrating him.
Yeah.
Second half, totally different story. He was getting out of the pocket. He was hitting quick passes. They struggled to contain him in the second half.
Yeah.
So.
Then you've got Jimmy G, who lit it up against Carolina. I say lit it up, but they won. They had a good ground game. Wilson Jr. ran well.
Yeah, I don't know. If you can't beat Carolina these days, then I don't know.
I mean, when you've got Baker Mayfield throwing pick sixes, it's pretty easy to beat him.
I mean, now you might have a rebound psychologically, just because you tend to see in football when a coach gets fired, the interim coach will try to light a fire under the players' asses, and there tends to be a spark, whether it lasts for a couple weeks or 1 week. So I think that they'll come and play hard for the new interim coach that ends up getting put in place, but they're a disaster right now. So I feel like if you're any team worth a damn in the NFL, you better beat the Carolina Panthers.
If you're going to speak of disasters, I want to talk about what the Commanders are becoming. I mean, Wentz is throwing 300, 400 yards, and they still can't win. Well, they lost to Tennessee 21-17.
Here's the story of Wentz that I feel like a lot of people knew going into the season. He's hopped around 3 different teams in 3 years. Mm-hmm. He's for all
turnovers
accounts,
in the end zone.
Yeah, he's just not winning games, and great quarterbacks win games. And I just feel like the Commanders are just one of those teams we talked about last week that are just lost. They're a franchise that's lost for many reasons, and they brought in Carson Wentz as a lottery ticket, and so far it's not paying off. Like I know Jahan Dotson's been out, and that was his favorite target, but at the end of the day, Carson Wentz, he's been a serviceable quarterback. At times he's been showing signs of greatness, but right now he's not winning games, and that's all that matters.
That is. Well, that's our recap of not only the Buffalo Bills but around the league. Is there any fantasy talk you want to get into?
I'll leave the fantasy talk for
the preview for week 6.
For the preview for the week 6 preview for the Chiefs. I'll end that with some fantasy talk to kind of give you some sneaky pickups on the waiver wire, or some potential defensive streamers that you want to do if you're streaming defenses.
All right, well, that's our recap for not only the Bills game but around the NFL. Now, before we go, we're gonna showcase our Josh Allen cards here. You want to start?
Yeah, the weekly Josh Allen showcase. Right here, we got an awesome Panini 2018 Introductions Josh Allen rookie card. So it's got some cool holographs. It's got the sparkle in there. On the back, it says Allen's hometown of Fireball, California is far away from the spotlight as it gets. It's a small farming town in the heart of the Central Valley, and by no means a hotbed for college football scouts. They found it thanks to Allen. And now the city of 8,311 can boast about being the home of an NFL quarterback, and one of the best NFL quarterbacks at that.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome rookie card.
And then mine here, the showcase here, it's a short print. It's number 5 of 50. And this here is Obsidian. It's got a nice little green shimmer to it.
Obsidian always has awesome graphics.
Oh, super nice. Yeah. So the Obsidian football, this says, Allen enjoyed a red-hot start in 2020. He tossed 12 touchdowns and ran for 3 more scores. Little did they know that the next year he was going to light up the NFL and take it by storm. And I really enjoy this card. So we're going to have a new one every episode. And our favorite comments, we're going to actually give a free card. Now, it might not be one as nice as this, but this week we've got a couple we want to show right here on screen. And we are going to send our lucky viewers with the best comments a Josh Allen card.
Boom, get you some of that Josh Allen stock, because business is a booming.
You probably don't want to leave your information here in the comments, but if we reply to you and say that you've won a card, go ahead and hit us up on my Twitter at Scott Kinmartin, or I'll leave the link in the description for my Facebook. You can message me there, and we will get you a card. So, on behalf of Greg Vollmer, my name is Scott Kinmartin. You're watching the house that Allen built. We will see you next time with the Week 6 preview of the Buffalo Bills at the Kansas City Chiefs.
And as always, let's go
Buffalo! We did it. It only took an hour.
All right. As long as what the world sees looks good, doesn't matter.
Hello. Okay, we are recording. Sweet.
All right.
Sweet teas. Okay. That was the Steelers defense.
Oh, check. Howdy, partner.
You ready to go?
Yeah.
All right.
That sounds like a drop of water.
No way!
What?
Okay, here we go. Welcome back to the house that Allen built. My name is Scott Kinmartin. With me, as always,
Greg Vollmer.
and we're going to talk about the Bills romping of the Steelers, 38-3.
Yes, indeed. Bills Mafia, I know you're feeling good. Western New York's on level.
Let's do it one more time.
Yeah.
We're good. I actually said the score before I wanted to.
All right.
Okay. Oh, I'm not. Oh, I am recording. I've been recording. God, I'm throwing off.
It's all good. Reset. Goose Fraba. We got to reset the chakras. Goose Fraba.
Ah!
Josh Allen, MVP, Super Bowl winner, Buffalo Bills.
All right.
Okay.
And
they're
it's,
gonna
once again,
is
in
it America's
Kansas City.
game of the week, right? It's America's game of the week.
Say that again. Is it America's week again? Is it America's game of the week?
You both the jello.
It's actually going to be Tony Romo and Jim Nantz again. Badunk-a-dunk. Taron Johnson, my unsung hero at defense, he allowed 2 receptions to Mark Andrews, who's a stud.
Impressive. Wait, Mark Andrews. He's a Raven.
What the am I talking about?
It's all good. It's all good. What?
Who the did we just play?
The Steelers.
Oh my
You're
God.
fine.
Why did I even say that?
It's all good.
I had that in my notes, though.
Yeah, it's all good.
Oh, it was probably because I was looking at my notes from last week.
It's fine. It's all right.
So where did we leave off?
You're talking about just Hamlin being an unsung hero, or Jaquan Johnson.
Taron Johnson.
Taron Johnson. Or excuse me, Taron Johnson.
Yeah, I can skip that. I'll find a spot where I can
it's all
skip
good.
it. So
Chelsea's calling you.
why is my audio? Did it stop because of the call?
Here, one sec.
Hello. Dude, I lost the audio.
Sorry, I got it.